So, you dislike SAO, do ya?
Well, I do, as a matter of fact. I think that its world building is complete and utter trash, but other than that, I couldn't get past the first episode.
Surely you're familiar with one of the most constant and convincing critiques of that series.
From a technical standpoint, no, I don't hear anybody bring up that, but from a anime standpoint, sure, I think people have brought that up.
Heck, even many fans of the show will admit that Reki Kawahara's continual and gratuitous use of rape is an issue.
But here's the problem, Pedantic, is that there are no scenes of rape in Sword Art Online. In fact, it's just pretty much hinted at or sexual assault that happens in SAO. The character never once rapes anybody. No one gets raped in SAO.
And the main issue with it is that Kawahara seems entirely unable to come up with ways to get you to hate a primary antagonist except by making them a rapist.
That's incredibly false, because the main villain of SAO, besides making him a quote-unquote rapist, is actually just egotistical. He's meant to be someone that you hate and disgust because he's so creepy. He's someone that wants to do a lot of bad things.
It's the quickest way to create a villain out of a character.
No, that's not always a get-out-of-jail-free card, ironically speaking, but it's one of those things where if you've ever seen the movie Watchmen, I'm sure you've seen it, or you probably haven't, given your stance, but the person that's in the movie, the comedian, he pretty much was the good person for the very beginning of the movie because no one knew who he was or what he had did. Then as you watch the events of the movie unfold through flashbacks, then you see how much of an actual piece of shit he is, and that he's pretty much irredeemable. And he's one of the people that you probably wonder why he even exists at this point. Because you're supposed to be made to hate him, not because of the rape that happens later on, or earlier in that flashback scene, but it's because he's just overall arrogant, and he doesn't have a very good personality. His priorities are just all out of order. He's just not a good person.
And hey, that may result in a lazy, dull, unnuanced, and cliched villain, but it'll get you one nonetheless.
Cliché isn't always inherently bad, and as you're going to bring up in this same video, inherently bad isn't going to be the crutch for everything, because as we're going to get into this, Goblin Slayer kills goblins because they are inherently bad. Villains are inherently bad because they are villains. But characters, even though they are just doing creepy things, do not inherently mean that they are going to be rapists.
If you agree with that critique of SAO, and you should because it's a correct one, and you still think Goblin Slayer is good, you're a hypocrite.
Okay, so we're just throwing out the insults here pretty early. Okay, well, two can play at that game, you fucking moron. This is the thing about SAO and how it differs from Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer kills goblins because they are inherently bad. They rape and they pillage. That is what their job is. In SAO, the main villain is to be creepy. If he actually rapes someone, that could make his entire company go under in the matter of seconds. No one knows that it was him until the very last battle. Until Kirito tries to uncover this entire murder mystery thing of all of these people that have died. But that's just something that you have to explain a little bit further on. Now, as far as things that happen in SAO, there is no rape. And I'm of the stance that SAO can be good, but it can't because of technological issues and the fact that there's things that just in modern year prevent it from being realistic, because they're trying to take a realistic way out of this. But that's neither here nor there. I dislike SAO because it has a lot of problems with its world building. I don't dislike it because of the not rape scenes that it doesn't have. I dislike it because it just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make me a hypocrite because I dislike SAO and I like Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer is a good series. It's a great franchise that started from manga and a light novel. People will tell you that the light novel's not as good, but the manga is pretty spot on accurate. It gives you a lot more detail and depth of characters that you only saw from the first episode. That makes their deaths and their eventual rape a little bit more hard to watch.
Because that is the literal premise of this series. Let's explain. Goblin Slayer is a series about following around our super cool hero as he goes about his quest of wiping out the goblins. The action sequences, from what I've seen of them, are pretty solid technically. There's enough tactical depth to how Mr. Slayer goes about his killing to make that side of things engaging.
Now, I know you probably didn't get past any of these parts to know exactly what happens, but the reason he knows how to kill them so well is because he's been, quote, practicing killing them. Because his main mission in life is to do one thing, and one thing only, and that is to kill goblins. He's going on a crusade to kill goblins because they are an evil that needs to be eradicated. He is the good guy of this. That's why he's such a fucking Chad.
However, none of this changes the fact that the conceit of this show is a dude killing bad guys that are bad in large part because they rape a lot.
No, you fucking idiot. If you looked at everything from the source material instead of looking at everything from an anime-only level, then you would know exactly why Goblin Slayer kills goblins. It's pretty much a revenge story, where he was once an ordinary boy in a village, and one day his best friend left for work on a farm for a few days, and the two fought because he couldn't go with her. Later that night, his village was attacked by goblins, and everyone he knew was killed. I think that's a good enough reason to wipe out goblins, is the fact that they not only rape, I guess what you call in large part, but also that they steal and that they destroy. They are an evil that does need to be eradicated because they're given reasons for this. They are just evil, vile creatures. So he's doing the world a good to rid them of this, and I know that you're probably going to check this wiki more than once in this video because you do it often. But at least you could have looked at just this little bit before making this fucking retarded video.
My complaint here isn't even that the rape is gratuitous or problematic or anything like that, so you can go shove your "but the rape isn't that bad in the light novel, only the manga does that" up your goblin dick sleeve. My complaint is that it ruins the writing of the series on a fundamental level.
I don't know about that one, Chief.
Again, this is literally how SAO structures things. Watch how cool Kirito is for beating up a rape guy.
But the problem is that she wasn't getting raped. He was getting ready to rape her, sure, but the rape hadn't even initiated yet. If you're going to stretch this far, I might as well get you a Stretch Armstrong. I mean, that's an 80s joke. That's going to be one for the boomer tip jar. Thank you for coming to this TED Talk.
But oh-ho, you may be saying. What about the intriguing moral quandary at play? The series certainly explores the moral implications of a race that is inherently evil, ending its first episode with our prospective character wincing over Mr. Slayer murdering goblin babies.
I think you may be missing the context of why he's actually murdering them, and not just giving the afterthought which you're going to do. The reason that he has to kill them is because they hold lifelong grudges. The goblins, despite being rapists, I know they actually have character development and they actually are villains that have thought processes. They actually learn from their mistakes from the past, so the ones that just got wiped out won't make the same mistake because they've learned from it. They hold lifelong grudges, so they know that they're going to kill the humans, or those with words. You even bring this up when you're talking about the goblins.
But that whole philosophical question is fucking stupid. The series makes this out as if it's supposed to even approach being an interesting concept, a study in when killing is justified, of a utilitarian greater good scenario. It's in the vein of the trolley problem.
No, not really. I mean, there was no trolley here. It was pretty much just on one rail. The goblins are evil, and he was stopping their advancement from doing more evil things. Even if we wanted to assume that they were going to do something good later on, that wasn't going to happen because of the way that the goblins are written in this story. They are inherent evil. They're not going to be good. They're going to do bad things forever. They've been doing bad things for as long as he can remember. They were doing bad things before he could remember. Are you really just this daft?
Except unlike that example, there's no nuance here, no debate to even be had. Goblins are evil inherently. Not only do they require rape to reproduce, as their species is only male, but beyond just that need, which would at least theoretically leave wiggle room for some good goblins to reject breeding because of that necessitated rape, they also have a predisposition to hate, quote, Those with words.
Aha, so you did check the wiki. That's how I know you're full of shit, because if you even know the source material or even check the wiki, it explains all of these arguments that you're trying to bring up about it being an edgy anime, because it's retarded. It literally is giving you every chance to understand its story, and if you refuse to, then you get lost in the wave.
Well, I guess that's it then. They inherently, by their biology, need to rape, and by their nature will be hostile towards humanity. If the author had been able to restrain his dick stroking over creating a race that it's actually okay to be racist towards just a little bit, he could have made a functional philosophical question.
Quote me, not everything is philosophical, not everything is political. Just take it for what it is. He wanted to make something that was fucking cool, and he did. That's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, if you want to go into this deeper meaning of why he had to exterminate goblins, then sure, I guess you could put it on that same level, but he made something that was entertaining in the story that he wanted to make. And even at the end of this video, you will say that people are still free to watch this, which they are, because we are literally just trying to watch something enjoyable.
If the goblins could choose not to rape, that actually leaves the question of good goblins up in the air. That murder of goblin children becomes just a tad bit morally gray if there's the possibility that they could have grown up to be good people. With literally 5 seconds of thought into how to improve things, I can conceive this change that would vastly increase the amount of depth the series possesses.
Except that you can't, because this is an artist interpretation. This is the story that they wanted to make. And sure, we could sit here and agree to disagree, and then that would be the end of this video, but you've literally left so much dead space in this that I can't help but go over it. And you only made this video 10 minutes long so that way you could monetize it and get signal boosted. I'm sure that there's no ulterior motives for that whatsoever, is there?
However, as things are, there isn't even a goddamn question to be asked. This situation isn't interesting at all. Of course you kill them off. They are inherently evil beings. What debate could possibly be had over this situation? Are you a fucking pro-lifer? All goblin life is sacred. Otherwise, I don't see what points could possibly be argued here.
Welcome to Politics 101, where we can still make an argument even if we don't have any basis on which to make an argument. It doesn't matter if they're pro-life or not. You see, there is the point where they do ask that question. She brings that question up to him about what if there is a good goblin. And he says, I suppose there is, but that could be possible. But in this chance, highly unlikely. I know you didn't really read the context of any part of these scenes that happened, but it would do you a great benefit to actually go over the things that you're talking about.
And let's now get to those racial elements, shall we?
Oh, god damn it. Not everything is related to race. Holy shit.
It's somewhat telling that the characterization the series ended up using to create villains of the goblins is basically a hodgepodge of all sorts of racist propaganda from throughout the centuries.
You know, at first I thought you were going to bring up something very valuable and, worth everyone's time, but then you started throwing race in this, and now I don't even know where you're going, because this show has nothing to do with race.
There's of course the obvious, those foreigners are coming to rape your white daughters, but it goes deeper than that.
Am I getting trolled in this video? Am I getting punked or shitted or whatever the fucking kids are calling it nowadays?
As a race, goblins are weak creatures, but they are tricky and conniving and just breed so dang quickly. That's how they manage to remain a threat. This is exactly how white supremacists explain the other races causing issues for white people when they are supposedly the superior race.
Oh my god! I cannot even edit a reaction to this. My mind is blown. You know what? Just next scene. Holy fucking ass crackers.
Goblins themselves have a long history as a Jewish caricature, being hook-nosed creatures who hole up in their caves hoarding wealth.
I don't remember the Jews just going out of their way to rape and pillage other people's villages. In fact, I know you didn't do any research to this, but You could even go to the fucking Wikipedia for goblins, and it just says they're monstrous creatures from European folklore, first attested in stories from the Middle Ages. What does this have to do with Jews and being greedy? Are you just racist, or is this actually what you believe? Is this what you truly think that this show is trying to push onto you?
And there's the point in episode 1 where Mr. Slayer literally says, "The only good goblin is one that never crawls out of its hole." That whole phrase structure happens to come from "the only good Indian is a dead Indian," which, as far as we know, was its initial use.
Do you know that Goblin Slayer takes place in a medieval time era? Like, this is something where they don't have modern technology, where this is something that they believe is completely acceptable to talk this way. It's something where they think that it's okay to say these things about other, quote, races of beings. I mean, the goblins are evil. That's why he says the only good goblins are the ones that never crawl out of their holes, implying that there are none. He's not saying that the dead ones are because, oh, well, I just love killing goblins just because. He has a vice for wanting to kill them. I don't even know where you're going at this point.
Now, calm the fuck down this instant and listen carefully.
Unfortunately, you've had my full attention for the full 16 minutes of this video that I've been going on.
Am I saying that the author is racist? No. Am I saying the series is racist? No. Although the fact that Goblin Slayer isn't racist doesn't seem to stop some idiot LARPers from using it to play out their fantasies of racial genocide.
They're talking about a game and you take that as them doing this in real life? What?
If I see you whining in the comments about the SJW upset over non-existent racism, I will personally come to your house and chop your dick off.
That's sexist.
I'm not saying it's racist. I'm saying that it's fucking lazy.
Don't worry, guys, it's not racist, even though I just spent a couple of minutes talking about how this show is actually racist. I mean, it doesn't really mean that it's racist. I mean, come on, guys, you know I was just fooling, right?
If your characterization of your villains is literally as flat and unnuanced as fucking racist propaganda, then I'm sorry to say that you have written a piece of shit story.
Wow, okay, well, it seems like we haven't learned anything, but they are literally not supposed to be racist. They are mythical creatures. Goblins are mythical, like fairies or demons. They're not something that are supposed to replace Jewish people. Now, as I've said before, and I'll ask you this again, are you actually racist, or is this something that you truly believe? Because either way, it still makes you look retarded.
And at the end here, let me say that edgy is a stupid criticism, a really stupid one. Why then did I call you an edgelord if you like this series?
Yeah, I'd like to know why I get called edgelord, a pedophile in training, as per Jed Whittaker.
Because I guarantee that huge portions of Goblin Slayers' fans have said Tokyo Ghoul is trash because it's so edgy, or laughed at Magical Girl Sight a few seasons back for being so edgy.
I actually enjoyed Magical Girl Sight, and I haven't really seen Tokyo Ghoul to care one way or another, but the characters seem pretty cool, I guess.
Or have made fun of Linkin Park Naruto AMVs for being so edgy.
Don't watch them. Can't stand them, but yeah, they are edgy. I don't care who you are. That shit is... like, what? They are absolutely edgy. You know what? Just fuck everything I just said that second ago. No, those are edgy because I mean, what? This whole video has just been a laugh fest. Is this what this intention of the video is to make me laugh?
If you ever use edgy as a criticism, if you, unlike me, buy into that as a critique that holds any validity whatsoever, and yet don't apply that label of edgy to this series, then you're even more proof of why edgy is such a vapid, meaningless term to describe something.
I will say this for the record, that edgy probably isn't the right thing to use. It's probably not the right term that we could have used for a lot of things, but how are you supposed to describe the sake of doing things for blood and gore than to just be doing them? Magical Girl Sight does that a little bit, but it's kind of just like, holy shit, that really just happened, versus Goblin Slayer where, well, I guess you gotta kill goblins and it's for a righteous cause. You just see it happen on screen. I'm not seeing where you're trying to draw parallels and people saying that something is edgy and using it as a vapid criticism. The other thing to remember here is that in this video, you've not ever once brought up Berserk, where it features not just one rape scene. Oh no, sweet child. It features dozens of rape scenes. And it's pretty edgy for that, but the storytelling is so good that I guess we just glossed over that, didn't we?
This is a series whose premise is a dude who watched his family get raped and murdered, going around to wipe out a race of inherently evil, savage rapists. The concept of a species that has to rape other intelligent life in order to survive is the most Shadow the Hedgehog bullshit of all time, except unlike Shadow the Hedgehog, it isn't the coolest video game of all time.
I don't write stories, but I think it's a little rude to say that they have to tailor to your specific taste every single time they write something. I mean, it is a thing where goblins, because they've built this world where they have to rape in order to progress, this is something that they've written into the story. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just saying that it's something that they wrote into the story and they had some forethought for. Forethought for. If you try to say that, that'll loosen up the lips a little bit.
If anything would qualify as edge, this series would be it. So ask yourself why you don't consider it to be edgy, if in fact you don't.
Because I read the source material and I don't go around making assumptions about people that I know nothing about.
I've seen some people try to explain or excuse this by saying, well, it's a dark, gritty fantasy. But last I checked, dumb bullshit wasn't a necessary genre element of that.
Playing the subjectivity card is a pretty clever way of getting out of, well, I can walk back everything that I said, but that doesn't make me the racist, guys. Dark fantasies are meant to be this way. They are a tool of something that is set in a fantasy world where things aren't always pleasant, where you can just level up and you can just take on quests and you just bonk the dinosaur and the dragons on the head and you get a special reward. No. This is you go into a goblin cave, one step goes wrong and you are immediately killed or raped. That is the reality of a dark fantasy world.
I'm sorry, but if the only way you can think of for something to be dark is overblown and unrealistic rape, then you are sorely lacking in creativity.
Guess we just forgot about everything that happened in Berserk then, I assume, because, there's a horse that rapes a woman in that. I just thought you might wanted to have known that that exists before you started shitting all over Goblin Slayer for, just this one instance.
Dark is contemplating hurting yourself because you feel worthless and feel like doing that might make you less so.
Did this immediately turn into a BetterHelp promo? I think that this was a BetterHelp promoted video.
Goblin Slayer isn't dark, it's child's play. The conception of what darkness is by a 13-year-old who's been lucky enough to never encounter real darkness in their own life.
Pedantic, I don't think that you've ever had anybody be raped in front of you. Because that's what the entire tone of Goblin Slayer is that these new adventurers go into a cave to slay goblins. This is their first outing as adventurers. And what ends up happening is things go awry and there's nothing they can do to stop it. They are too weak because they are fresh new adventurers. They have no type of training other than what they've went to school for or their own ambitions if you read the manga, which I doubt you did. And they end up, unfortunately, getting just terribly destroyed because they were outnumbered and underpowered. This is what happens when a victim of rape is taken advantage of. They are typically just underpowered, not able to fend for themselves. That's why this is dark, because things can still happen like this to this day. Just instead of goblins, it's other people. And it might be people that you know.
Something so overblown that it could only speak to reality in the most vague of ways isn't dark. This series doesn't touch upon any heavy truth, any frightening reality of human nature or existence. You want dark? Go watch Rakugo Shinju. Go watch, spoilers, a man carry the guilt of killing his best friend for fucking decades of torturous life afterwards.
Or, having someone that you know be raped and then having to sit through an uncomfortable scene where someone is probably doing the exact same thing, where they were just going to their car at night, or they were just leaving their place of work, and they get attacked and they get raped. How is this hard for you to understand and grasp? I know that you probably haven't been faced with this adversity yet, but just understand that some people are sympathetic and they are empathetic towards those that have.
And as I already covered, in addition to the rape not being dark, neither is the whole moral question over killing goblin babies. So there is nothing here. I get it. I would have once called this series dark myself. I do understand how you could think that. I was just a massive idiot back when I would have called it that, and by now I've become a tad bit less idiotic.
No, I think you've taken about 3 steps back on the retardation scale of just not understanding how rape affects people, how being in a compromising situation things can go bad, and also the fact that you're kind of blatantly racist to pull all of these things from a story that has no connotations of racist whatsoever. There's no thing about, oh, well, we gotta kill the goblins, and the goblins are just like Jews, am I right? Yeah, that's not in any of this. I think that you've taken a huge step backwards, and to be fair, I've not really noticed any of your other works besides this, and sometimes I agree with the things that you say on Twitter, but this video was just a huge shit. In fact, I think other people think so too.
As always, still feel free to watch the series if you enjoy it for whatever reason, whether that be because of a so bad it's good appeal, or because even after all this you still enjoy it as a good series.
I enjoy it because it actually makes sense and it's good. I mean, I shouldn't have to give reasons why it's good, and the reason that I will is because I want to prove you wrong. In fact, I'm going to gloss over everything that you said and just not even pay attention, and I'm going to give you reasons why it's good. Goblin Slayer, by the same name as the manga and the light novel, is something that is intentionally supposed to be gory to show you the real side of what these goblins, these characters, are in this medieval time, in these Middle Ages when they originated. They're meant to be a force that needs to be wiped out because they do bad things and they are inherently evil. The reason I like watching it is because watching all of these things happen from the Goblin Slayer's point of view makes you understand and sympathize with him to just eradicate them all. That's it. And it's the fact that you have a protagonist that is just clever enough to solve all of his problems by himself, but he eventually gets more comrades along the way to help him kill some goblins. This has nothing to do with, oh, well, all lives matter, dude. No, it's not that at all.
I've offered up my reasons for why Goblin Slayer is bad, but hey, maybe you don't agree that SAO handles its villains poorly.
No. You didn't offer up reasons why you think Goblin Slayer is bad. You offered up reasons why you think that if I like Goblin Slayer, I'm probably a hypocrite edgelord, which is very bold of you to assume, because the last person that did something like that was Jed Whittaker. And Jed Whittaker said that I was a pedophile in training for playing Valkyrie Drive, a game about incestuous kissing and them turning into weapons and then they fight each other. Like, do you not realize on what level of just intelligence that you're on? This sounds so fucking ripped out of everything that you know that you blatantly said that it was racist and that it was about the Jews. This has nothing to do with any of those things. And sure, I may get a bunch of dislikes on my video about this, but they're not going to be anything compared to your dislikes, where you've gone out of your way to say that everything is racist and everything is political. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, then first of all, I'm glad that your brain cells have made it, because mine are completely shot and my voice is almost gone. But also, I have to give you guys the down low, the information as you kids call it, where I have 2 channels that I've just made. One is called NECRO Minis, where I'll be moving most of the small content that I'm going to make, about 5-minute or less videos, so that way it doesn't clog up this main channel. And then also NECRO Music, which is going to be very music focused, and I'm going to have a lot of stuff that's very future funk focused over there. It's just going to be a really good time for you guys to listen to music and also get some of the interviews and things like that. And I'll also be doing some cassette giveaways, so if you missed some stuff on Bandcamp, then you'll have an opportunity to get all of that stuff back then. But that's about all I can really shell out for. I mean, Patreon, Twitter, Discord. But other than that, make sure that you watch some Goblin Slayer, because it's really good,